So far we have discussed VTP version 1, VTP version 3. In this section we are going to take a look about VTP version 3. What new enhancement taken place in VTP version 3, how we can configure VTP version 3 and verify whether it's working correctly or not. So I have created a comparison list where we can figure out what is new things that going to added in VTP version 3. So obviously VTP version 1 and 2 almost same, except to that VTP version 2 support token ring. So they support Ethernet, yes, obviously. Token ring only supported by VTP version 2 since no one using token ring network nowadays. That's why VTP 3 is not going to support for token ring as well. VLAN propagation, which VLAN can be sent across the trunk link to all the domains so that they can synchronize their VLAN database. If you're talking about VTP version 2 and VTP version 3, they can only send from VLAN 1 to 1001 VLAN. If we're talking about VTP version 3, it can send or propagate the information about VLAN that begin from 1 and that is going to end 4095. Which VLAN actually that we can prove in VTP version 1 and VTP version 2 as well as VTP version 3. All these three versions, they only prove from 1 to 1001. While if you're talking about 1, we need to go through the manual configuration. In rest of thing we need to configure. If you're using extended VLAN and you want to prune that particular VLAN, you need to configure manually on trunk interfaces. Propagation information, or what kind of propagation takes place inside VTP domain. If we running VTP version 1 and 2, they are only going to send or propagate the information about normal VLAN. While VTP version 3, they send and receive normal, private as well as multi-spanning tree configuration. What are the VTP modes in VTP version 3? So we know already VTP version 2 and 1 has server, client and transparent, where VTP version 3 introduce a VTP mode off. So we can off VTP to particular switch. Database alternation, who can change or modify the VLAN database. In VTP version 1 and 2, there is only server who can modify data. If you're talking about transparent switches, they can modify it, but this is the locally significant. So that is same in VTP version 3, means only the transparent and server. But here that server is only primary server that can be modified VLAN information, and obviously transparent switches as well. What about password? VTP version 1 and VTP version 2, if you execute command show VTP password, we can find clear text password in running configuration, and you may have saved your backup of switches somewhere, and might be a person can find the password. So that is different in VTP version 3. This is the new enhancement. You can hide or encrypt your password if you're talking about VTP version 3. VTP advertisement control or advertisement control. So that is not possible with VTP version 1 and VTP version 2. But this is possible with VTP version 3. You can disable particular switch, that means pull your switch work as a VTP off mode. Either you can disable to particular interface or a trunk, so that it not going to send and receive those VTP advertisement out of that specific interface that you have defined. So extended range support by VTP version 3. So one thing that we also need to understand, what happen if you created any extended VLAN to any switch, and then after you demote your switch as VTP version 1 or VTP version 2. So they are going to delete the extended VLAN, which one you created earlier when your VTP version 3 work on that particular switch. So make sure that if you demote your switches, they are not going to support the extended VLAN. VLAN 1002 to VLAN 1005 are reserved. So no matter you are using version 1, 2 or 3, VTP mode off is similar to transparent mode. They treat as a same, but the exception is that they are not going to send or receive any VTP advertisement. So that is the different or a new feature or enhancement introduced in VTP version 3. VTP version 3 regions can only communicate over VTP version 1 or 2 region if the switches or devices working in transparent mode. So let me define what I mean to say about this line. Suppose you may have 3 switches, switch 1, switch 2, switch 3. This is switch 1, switch 2, and this is switch 3. Working VTP version 1, version 2 and version 3. And you or all switches may have a common VLAN, VLAN 2, VLAN 3, VLAN 2, VLAN 3 and VLAN 2, VLAN 3. Obviously they are interconnected to each other. And we looking for, they can talk to VLAN 2 to VLAN 2 from switch 1 to 2, switch 2 to 3 and so on and so forth. So make sure these 3 devices, if they are running the different VTP version, so they must be, their mode must be transparent so that they can exchange their data. If you have multiple VTP mode enabled on the switches, means multiple switches I should say. So understanding the VTP advertisement, there is nothing special than there are some other information going to add with VTP version 3. So who is primary ID and instance number and all those things or information. So along with previous, they added these new information that going to advertise out of the trunk links. One more thing, that if you using VTP version, let me see, VTP version 1, 2 and 3, they are not interoperable. Operatable. That means, what I mean to say that? Now let me explain little bit. This is switch 1, switch 2 and this is switch 3. They are connected to each other, switch 1, 2, 3. And this may be running VTP mode 1, VTP mode 2 and VTP mode 3. So might be you creating any VLAN, a switch that running VTP mode, VTP version I should say, sorry, VTP version 3, and you looking for they are going to exchange their VLAN information, they are not. So they cannot operate or they are not compatible to each other. So that's good how we can enable VTP version 3. So we need to execute command VTP version 3. So if you not assign any VTP domain name, you will get an error message. So first make sure you have assigned VTP domain name. How we can turn off or turn on VTP to particular interface? We need to execute the command on a particular interface, that is no VTP. By default once you enable the VTP version 3, that going to enable out of every port. So you can disable on particular port no VTP. And how we can disable globally? Obviously we can execute command VTP mode off. So that means we going to assign mode off, not going to send or receive or listen or learn the VTP advertisement out of any port. So now it's time to implement these things, or need to be go through the configuration. So let me pause the recording and turn on my devices. This is the topology that we are going to play with. So let me bring my console window. Switch 1, switch 2, switch 3. First I would like to verify the current status of switches for VTP. So we can see right there, actually I have created alias for so VTP status. So currently it working as a VTP version 1, but it has capability to work with 1, 2, 3 and working as a server. That is the default thing. Similarly to switch 2 and switch 3 as well. So let me change the name. Actually this is SW3. That's good. Switch 3. And now first what I like to do, first first make this interface as a trunk. So let me select those interface on switch 2, interface range gig 0/122 switch port mode trunk. So hopefully if we create trunk port from switch 2, that also create trunk port from switch 1 and switch 3, because the ports by default operate as dynamic auto. So they are going to negotiate their trunking as well. And next thing, I need to enable VTP domain name. So let's see VTP, what happens if we use VTP version 3. If we try, we will see the message or error message, I should say, cannot set VTP version 3 because domain name is not configured. So first we need to configure VTP domain name. So VTP domain name, let's see GOR. So from null to GOR got set, and all switches I would like to use VTP version, let's see 3. So that's good. VTP version 3, VTP version 3 and 3. For switch 3, make this work as a transparent. So VTP mode transparent, and leave I want to leave this switch 1 and switch 2, these switches as a default. So this is switch 3, switch 1 and switch 2. First let's verify when we create the extended VLAN, are that VLAN going to propagate to switch 1 or not. So VLAN, extended VLAN, let's see VLAN 111, and oh that's good. You cannot create VLAN because you know what, you are not working as a primary server. So let's see how we can configure this switch. Obviously this is working as a server, switch 1 and switch 2 both, but they are not working as a primary server. So VTP primary for VLAN. Now it's going to check out of every switches, are you already working as a primary VLAN or a primary server for VLAN. So hopefully no one switch working as a primary VLAN, so we can go ahead and let's create VLAN. First I would like to show the VLANs. So do show VLAN brief. So there is only default VLAN, default VLAN and default VLAN. VLAN 111 extended, VLAN 112, 113. These 3 VLAN should be propagate to switch 1 but not switch 3. So let me execute same command. Excuse me. Switch 1, switch 2, as we can see. What about switch 1? Yes, that's good, but that should not be in switch 3 exactly. So we sure that VTP version 3 sending extended VLAN information. So now verify for MST. So first I would like to show the MST configuration. Do show spanning tree MST switch is not operate as a MST, so spanning tree mode work as a MST for all switches. That should be MO. That's good. And C for MST instance 0, everything is fine on switch 1, switch 2 and switch 3. Let me create MST instance on switch 2. So configure, spanning tree MST configuration. Inside configuration we can see there are several commands that we can execute, but here I would like to create an instance. For example, instance number, let's see, 2, then VLAN. VLAN, should I cannot until and unless my server VTP mode server for MST. That's good. And now VTP primary for MST for C. So actually switch to working primary server for VLAN as well as primary server for MST. You can configure it to it can be configured into two different boxes. One switch work as a MST primary server and another can be work as a VLAN primary server. Since that is not a big deal for you, so I'm not going to do on that way. For demonstration, that is good to configure both thing on switch 2. So we can also verify if we execute command do so spanning tree MST. Spanning should be in. So we have already, I think, verified that. On switch 2, spanning tree mode, spanning tree MST configuration. Inside configuration, now we can configure something. So instance number 2, VLAN that we're going to propagate or changing the information about VLAN from 1111 to 1113. That's good. If you like to put the name, you can. So for instance, this is the test, and configuration reversion number as well, if you like to put. We'll discuss everything when we move to the upcoming video, that is for spanning tree, rapid spanning tree and MST. So that's good. So once we configure the instance, that going to propagate out of every switches. And now spanning tree MST and the name of instance, I think we have created instance number 2. That's good. 2, I want to be the root bridge or a root server, I should say, a root bridge, I should say, primary. So switch to working as a root, primary root for MST instance 2 that has some VLAN assigned. Now it's time to verify. Do so spanning tree MST. So that's good. We can see the instance number 2, hopefully on this one as well. Maybe it takes some time to propagate. Meanwhile, we can discuss about the rest of topic. The topic was password. Let's see. For instance, if we apply VTP password and then after password, suppose CISCO, and then we have two ways to hide your password. Suppose if we use hidden one, and now show the password, do so VTP password, we can see your password is already encrypted. So one more thing, how we can turn off particular switch or a mode, that is VTP off mode we can say, that we have discussed. How we can turn particular switches to work in VTP off mode. So configure terminal spanning tree mode, not spanning tree, VTP mode off. For which one? You can off for VLAN, you can off for MST or unknown as well, that may be support in future. So this is the command that we need to execute globally, will going to turn off VTP to entire switch. If you're looking for, suppose, to turn off particular interface, you can select that interface. For instance, this is let me see, this is gig 0/1 interface, gig 0/1 and no VTP, that's all. So we have disabled VTP on this interface. How we can verify? So VTP interface. So we can see that rest of switches, switch port, they have enabled VTP, and then gig 0/1 is disabled. So hopefully we have verified all those things that we have discussed. One more thing left, private VLAN. Since my switches is not supporting private VLAN, I cannot create private VLAN. If it support private VLAN, that's good to go. That is means very easy to configure it. So hopefully this is informative for you, and thanks for watching.